Friends, hello and welcome to this very new episode. I received a comment in one of my video which basically explained the way the Palestinians and the Hamas were raping and killing the Jewish woman. And he is responding back, and nothing about Palestine. Don't you know that, the Crusaders killed and raped many women? Okay, that's good news. So if you do not know who were the Crusaders, then that is your problem. Let me tell you who were the Crusaders. When Muslims started expanding, they went into the lands which were populated by Christians. And what did they do? They did exactly the same. They raped, killed, and murdered the Christians. And this is as per the teachings of your Prophet Muhammad. He was the one who said that, and your people follow. And you call him a prophet. To me, he is a mass murderer. He is the person who actually created problem throughout this world. If you just remove Muhammad and his teachings and the followers creating all this problem in the world, this world will be a very peaceful place. Sorry to tell you that that is the fact. And when the Christians were kind of fed up, finally, the camel's back was broken by a small hay, and that hay was you guys attacked 12,000 German pilgrims. And when that attack happened, the Christians of the Western Europe, they decided it's time we take some action. And then they took the actions, and what do you expect the Crusaders to do? They were basically armed men, part of their army, and they did the same which you can expect any such armed army will do. So please stop saying you're holier than thou thing here. It doesn't work. Now coming back to the topic of Palestine. Well, there is this Israeli PM by name Golda Meir. What did she say? She said that peace will come to the Middle East the time or the moment when Arabs start loving their children, you mean their own children, and stop hating the Jews. The entire fiasco around this Palestinian problem is just Jewish hatred, nothing more. And the entire Muslim nation or the Muslim population of this world is guilty of that. Most of the time, people will say, oh no, it's a problem with a small percentage of people, or maybe the problem is with some teachings of Islam, but not the Muslims. Well, I have news for you. It is nothing to do with any of those small items. It's globally, the problem is with Muslims. Okay? So if you do not agree with me, I hope you can see to this particular video of the son of Hamas. This guy, he actually said that this is the problem. So let us hear that, and then we can continue to discuss.
Masab, you tweeted on Friday something that many people found incendiary. You said, never trust anyone who identifies as a Muslim. They may appear as a harmless sheep when they are alone, but when they're in a pack, they will begin to show their tusks. I have zero respect for any individual who identifies as a Muslim, and I may consider the use of force when it comes to Islamists. What did you mean by that? Many people have said, well, why would you say that about, over 1 billion people?
Well, I don't care how many they are. Any person who put the religious identity above the highest interest of humanity, I have no respect for this people. The majority of the Muslim people identified with Hamas, supported Hamas. Show me how many Muslims out there who condemned Hamas genocide. Why? Is it because Jewish blood? This is what I meant, that the Muslims, as long as they give Hamas cover, I have no respect for them. As long as I identify as Muslims, I have no respect for them.
But I've interviewed a number of Muslims on this show who do not support Hamas and have renounced them. Cenk himself came on the show before and immediately denounced what Hamas did on October the 7th.
I am dealing with a majority of Muslim countries, governments, an entire nation. Don't tell me about an individual here or there. We're talking about a majority of Muslim
Well, I'm
people
talking about. Well, I'm only saying that because
who fail to take their moral responsibility.
Understand,
they
but
fail
you
to take their moral responsibility because it's Jewish people.
I understand, but you did say literally every Muslim. You said don't trust anyone who identifies as a Muslim. That's all of them. And what I'm saying to you is I've interviewed many Muslims on this show who are not extremists, who do not support what Hamas did, who believe what they did was a terror attack.
But they still have the need for a religious identity, which is a false identity. Individuality is something else. Freedom is something else. A person who know who they are above all national and religious identities. There is no need to pose as a Muslim in a critical time in the human history. This is the time to take moral responsibility. What's the point of identifying as a Muslim while people threatening to erase an entire Jewish community? This is not acceptable. This is why I want the Muslim to stand and be clear.
Okay.
Up to this point, I haven't seen the Muslims taking a moral stand, a firm stand against Hamas. You know why? Because they are Muslims. Because they are Muslims against the Jewish people. And this is where I want to push the Muslims to the point where they need to stand firmly and say, it doesn't matter if they are Jewish or Christians. A genocide is a genocide and is rejected. Hamas is rejected. I want to see this clearly. Then after that, I will have respect for the majority of the Muslim people. As long as they fail their moral responsibility, I have no respect for them.
Okay.
So, Mossab Hassan Yusuf, he is the son of Hamas co-founder. He is telling you the truth. He clearly tells that Muslims as a whole are supporting Hamas. Why is that? Why don't you guys even use your common sense and know that your religion is what inspires them to do? It is a cancer, my friend. You know, when cancer cells get cancer, it becomes malignant and they start multiplying at a very high rate. And they start destroying all those other cells which are around and make them also cancerous. This is exactly why when you guys say that Islam is the fastest growing religion, this is the picture I get. The cancer, ever increasing cancer. Nothing more. Because Islam as an ideology teaches that the Christians and Jews are pigs. They are saying that the others, that is non-Muslims, are hellbound. All those evil thinking about your neighbors is injected to you from your prophet. It is the problem started there from Muhammad. It did not start with you. You guys, Muslims, are basically the cancerous cells which got infected. So now what we have to do? You have to be de-radicalized and Islam has to be removed. Because Islam is the cancer. Till you do not accept the fact that Islam is a cancerous ideology, there is no hope for the world. Now let us hear the former Prime Minister of Israel telling what the Palestinians' children are being taught by their mothers. That should help you understand the fact.
But do we have a choice? We don't. That's what you got to do. And I will also say that, unfortunately, thousands of Gaza citizens actively supported this terror attack. We know that the third wave of the attack, which was the most savage of the waves, and that included the rape, etc., was conducted by civilians.
Okay, so there we go. Did you notice what he said?
Was conducted by civilians. Was conducted by civilians.
The third part of the attack in October 7, the third wave, was conducted by civilians. They raped, pilfered, and murdered the Jews. It is not Hamas who did it. Hamas did the first and second wave. But the third was done by Palestinians, the normal Palestinians who voted for Hamas, and they were the one who did it. Now, why are they crying when they are getting back in the same coin? They ought to be responsible for their action.
Well, let me tell you what the civilians of Gaza felt on October 7th before Israel retaliated. the lion's share of Gaza citizens massively supported Hamas. They massively support the attack. We know this because there were polls done. This is very unfortunate. We're dealing with a population that I guess believes that raping women, murdering children is fine if it's Jews. Now, if I could choose a different neighbor, I would, but that is who we have on our doorsteps. We have to face it. But the question is, what do you do? And the answer is, we need a new regime in Gaza that'll stop poisoning the brains and brainwashing the children of Gaza from the age of 0 until they're 20 years old, telling them that Jews are pigs and that Jews ought to be slaughtered and that we're the Satan.
So now that you have watched what Bennett Naftali had to say, the ex-prime minister of Israel, and why do you think the Palestinians deserve any mercy? Because they voted for Hamas. That is just one part of the problem. And it was these same Palestinians, it's the normal civilians who came and raped and killed and murdered and butchered and beheaded these people. Remember, the Hamas fighters are very few in numbers. But this kind of horrendous acts was done by the normal Palestinians who crossed over. And the funny thing is that, I mean, I don't find it any more funny that these Israelites who were killed, they were not anti-Palestine. They were pro-Palestinians. They gave job to these Palestinians. They gave all those good things to Palestinians and they were fighting for the Palestinians. Remember, in Israel, there is two groups. One is pro-Palestine and one is the anti-Palestine. And these Palestinians killed those people who helped these people. Among the Israelites, there is this group who are pro-Palestinians. They killed them. Think about it. You cannot make friendship with a snake. Now, if you still think that I am totally anti-Palestine, okay, I'll put this video for you so that you can understand what the Palestinian civilians did to the Israelis at that day, October 7th. And then maybe some sense would get into you. And that would be the end of this video. And may the good Lord bless you and keep you. But don't skip seeing this part. This is a very important part. And I hope all of you will see it. Thank you.
To be honest, even the Hamas terrorists thought that it's an exercise. And only an hour before, they were told, no, this time is for real. So very few people in the very top command of Hamas knew today we're doing it. The rest thought maybe it's another exercise. And what happened at 6:29, a heavy barrage of rockets, mortar shells, along with drones that dropped bombs, snipers that hit all the cameras along the border, and we basically blinded the they blinded the Israeli military from even seeing what's happening along the border. Simultaneously, on top of Toyota pickups, on top of motorcycles and 4x4s, they managed to breach 15 places along the fence. And the first thing they did, they slaughtered the military presence along the border that they could. And then they approached their prize, civilians. They came ready and armed to kill as many as possible in the most sadistic, barbaric way possible. The amount of weapons and explosives and RPGs and the amount of weapon they had with them was enough to kill at least 100,000 people. And the maps we found in their bags showed that they had a plan to invade way deeper, to take over 2 strategic military air bases, to kill all the pilots and to destroy all of the aircrafts on the ground. And more so, I will say, now I can say it, I couldn't say it until a week ago, they had plans to take over some strategic military installations that had some other types of weapon. That if I told you, I'll have to kill you. The worst part, you see, I have no problem when a war is between soldiers and soldiers, is between armed people and armed people. But the worst part happened when local Palestinians that worked in the Jewish communities along the border led other civilians that came in the second wave to a celebration of looting, raping, beheading, burning, and chopping to pieces people whom they knew. People who helped them, gave them work, gave them food, people who rallied for them, people who drove them to hospitals within Israel, people who were on the left side of the Israeli map, on the ones that was the most pro-Palestinian you can find. These are the first to be slaughtered in ways that I don't want to defile your souls right now. But we had to assemble bodies because we found piles of heads and piles of legs and piles of hands. In some cases, we had to call in for archaeologists because the fire consumed the body to the point that there is no DNA. We need to now identify them by their teeth and their jewelry. In a case of a girl, 25-year-old from a neighboring town where I live, she was part of the music festival. For 7 weeks, we didn't know where she is at. And you have to understand, hundreds of people were slaughtered in a very small area where the participants of that festival were. Rape was not occasional, it was systematic. From investigations that we did as we interrogated all those whom we captured alive, there was a commander just for the rape. They actually not only premeditated, prepared it, but they appointed someone just for that. You would think that you know what rape is. No, you don't. Because we found women in complete splits position. Their pelvises, their legs, their ribs, everything was broken. And those animals would continue to rape them until they pulled their gun and shot them in the head, and then continued raping a dead body, which is completely broken to pieces. We found not one, not two, dozens of bodies like that, even of males. Male genitalia was cut off, and we found dozens of them everywhere. They were sadistic. So when we find bodies 5 hours or 2 days later, we think he's dead. What we now know is that there were 3 hours of torture. Because only now the survivors begin to talk. Many of them attempted suicide. Some of them were forcibly admitted to mental hospitals because they completely lost it. Because they witnessed the most horrific atrocities mankind could ever see. In kibbutzim, along the border, there are kibbutz is a type of community where children have their own homes, where somebody is taking care of them. That was the best thing that ever happened to those savages, because they took all the children and burned them alive, piling them up. pregnant woman was captured. They opened her body, pulled the baby, and stabbed and killed the baby while still connected with the umbilical cord. We have never seen things like that in the Holocaust. We haven't seen even ISIS performing things like that. What was done in ways and fashion and manner and that shocked the Israelis. So we're a post-trauma nation right now. For us, there is a monster that wants to kill us, and the choice is simple. Either it kills us or we kill it. There's no other option.